to get their take on this situation. Very pleased to be joined by the author of Nuclear Showdown, North Korea Takes on the World, Gordon Chang. He is in Huntsville, Alabama. I'm also joined from Busan, South Korea by Robert Kelly. He is a professor of political science at Busan National University and is in Busan, South Korea. Thank you for joining us, gentlemen. Robert, I would like to begin with you. Your reaction to that press conference that took place just moments ago.
Well, it's always hopeful to talk to North Korea, right? It's better than where we were 6 months ago. I have concerns about whether or not the Trump administration is ready for this. It's only been 8 weeks, or we only have about 8 weeks between when the event was announced and when it will occur. The ideological and strategic differences between the two Koreas and the United States are pretty deep. I don't know if you can bridge those in eight weeks. I think it would have been wiser to wait a little bit. But, you know, maybe the president can sort of push through a deal, right? I mean, that's sort of his reputation, art of the deal and all that. I mean, maybe he can actually get something where his predecessors have not.
All right, Gordon, let's bring you in. What do you think? Is the U.S. president prepared for this meeting if and when it happens?
I don't think any American leader would be prepared for a meeting with any North Korean leader. So I think that, you know, we have to just go forward with this. You know, it's not so much a question of study and consultation and interagency review. The most important thing is the willingness of the U.S. president to use power in order to get favorable outcomes for the international community. And one of the things I thought was significant in this press conference, and it was in response to a question towards the end, President Trump said, you know, I'm willing to just walk out of the meeting if the North Koreans are not serious. I think that was a good thing. I think what it shows, Kim, is that the United States is not wedded to a dialogue process if that process is going to be fruitless. So, you know, it's more just a question not of being prepared, but actually being, I think, willing to use power and willing to use pressure to get the North Koreans to do the right thing.
How significant is this, and I'll put this question to Robert, how significant is it having the Prime Minister of Japan standing alongside you saying that you are a loyal friend to my country and we are strong allies? Does this play a significant role in terms of how these negotiations or these meetings will happen with the leader of North Korea?
Yeah, I think the big concern the Japanese have is that they're a little worried about getting cut out. And I think they're a little concerned of how rapidly this is all going, right? I mean, again, 6 months ago, we were talking about, 4 months ago, we were talking about like war in the peninsula, right? And there was a huge American buildup here in December. I mean, there was a lot of anxiety, and the Japanese carried a lot of water for Donald Trump last year when he was saying things like fire and fury that were really sort of scaring a lot of people. That, you know, Abe was willing to stand behind the president, and now here we are, all of a sudden talking about a peace treaty and denuclearization. It seems like everything is moving really, really rapidly. And I think that's what the Japanese are really concerned about. They're trying to sort of figure out what's going on because Japan has interest in the region and on the peninsula. Specifically, Japan has had people abducted by North Korea and like to find out what happened to them. Also, Japan has a general sort of interest in the course of North Korea, right? I mean, issues like proliferation and North Korea's stabilization and things like that matter a lot. And I think that's what Abe's trying to get a handle on.
I wonder how significant the trade file would be, given what you gentlemen just discussed there with how significant it is having Japan there at the table. With respect to trade, you've got Donald Trump saying, look, we need free, fair, and reciprocal. And now we're hearing those exact same words from the Prime Minister. Gordon, what do you think of that? The Prime Minister of Japan, I mean.
Yes, I don't think they made as much progress as people expected, or at least they weren't hinting at it. You know, I expected the president, for instance, to give an exemption to Japan from the steel and aluminum tariffs because the United States had given exemptions to other allies. But apparently, President Trump is using that in negotiations over a free trade agreement with Japan. And so at this particular time, I'm a little bit surprised that there wasn't more announcement of progress than at least I had expected.
Robert, what do you think? And what stands out for me here, as before I ask you the question, is Trump made it very clear he wants bilateral agreements, but Shinzo Abe is saying, hey, I'm down with the TPP. He wants to work on that file. Yeah. What do you make of that?
Yeah, I think that's right. I think the analysis there is basically correct. I think it's too bad that Trump missed a chance to roll back the tariffs to the Japanese. Right, we need the Japanese to cooperate with us on Korea, on China. Japan is our friend. President Trump has a long sort of history of sort of protectionist statements about Japan going back to the 1980s. I mean, this does cut against the grain of what the president's thinking has been for a long time. But I mean, ultimately, TPP is better than a series of bilaterals, right? Because what we want to do is present a common united front to China to get them to change their trade practices, particularly regarding IPR, intellectual property. I mean, this is really sort of now well established. And, China's big enough now that it can actually go point to point with the United States over these kinds of questions, right? We need a larger bloc. And I think this is one of the reasons why the Trump administration has sort of realized the wisdom of TPP and is reinvestigating it, because it's going to take a lot more than just the United States provoking a trade war with China to get them to change.
All right, Gordon, we've got 20 seconds. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that Robert is absolutely right. Trans-Pacific Partnership is the way to go. But, President Trump made some concessions on that, at least rhetorically. So at least we're moving in the right direction on the TPP as well.
Gentlemen, thank you very much for this. It's great having you on, especially after that long and very interesting press conference from Shinzo Abe and Donald Trump. Gordon Chang in Huntsville, Alabama. Robert Kelly in Busan, South Korea. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
Thank you for having